A collection of audio messages sent out by King Theravan in regards to the Kingdom of Eden. Recorded the 20th of early spring in the year 299, and received the 26th of mid-spring in the year 299. My dear heir, my good friend, I request that you, if you can, double your current production of arrowheads and bowstrings. We can no longer engage our enemies at close range. If anything from the last 25 years of peace has taught me, is that engaging our enemies at close range would be to our detriment. I would also like to request that the dwarves in your province to begin the creation of a series of traps or siege engines to slow down the Devil March. I would also like to ask you to draw up the beginnings of a new fort closer to the Faring Plains. The old one does not have the expanded fortifications necessary to hold off such a large force. After that, I wish you to meet me in Heok, as I am looking to send an expedition to Eden to request support in our war to come. I do not want to leave the kingdom in this time of crisis, but sadly, since the death of Corfell, I have found a lack of council members that I can trust. I reflect fondly on our time in the Great Council together, almost 300 years ago, and I am in desperate need of that camaraderie. The current members of the council, due to their age, lack of wisdom, and tact required for diplomatic mission. I formally request that you will come to me in the capital and deliver my message to Eden and act as my ambassador for me. I know you have many sons who will act as worthy regents while you're gone. I ask you to serve your kingdom once more. I ask you to help me as your friend. I have a message that must be delivered, for I have advice for the king of the giants. I have found some sea elves willing to make the journey on my ship. Eden is said to be protected by a haze of fog, which, with luck, you can find your way through. Once you have arrived, play my message and act as my will there. I will send you one of the orbs of communications that will allow us to communicate from any distance. I wish for you to speak to the dwarves there on my behalf and seek an end to the Fourth Elder War, for it has gone on long enough. The devils of our far greater concern. Send me details of any agreement you make so that I may look over it and find it suitable and agree to it. Thank you, my friend, for your refusal or your acceptance. The message played to the Assembly of Giants, recorded in the 2nd of late winter in the year 298, received the 29th of late winter in the year 299. To the Honorable King Scott. From one king to another, I am happy to communicate with you again. In our last meeting, I told you that we would under no circumstances leave our forest despite your pleading. I still hold this position. However, I have thought much on where we stand together. And I have a word of wisdom to deal with and to manage our common enemy, and some information that you might find prudent. Our truce with the great enemy ends in the year 300s, and I have noticed that you are indeed not at war with them. I would not ask you to bring war against the devils, for I hear you are in some ways family with them and are not ready for war yourself. However, I have some gold in my possession that I think may work as compensation for mercenary troops from your kingdom. I know that you would not willingly do this, and you would do this with reluctance, but I would pay them lavishly so that even the devils could not complain. I also have some mithril that could be traded for additional goods in vast bulk, so long as they were transported in your ships. I find this to be a fair trade for more food, mercenaries, and arrowheads crafted by the fine metals in your possession. I have spent some time debating the current map of the devil forces across the globe, and I have come to a conclusion most concerning. It has appeared to me that they are producing material and troops far faster than we could have possibly calculated. The refineries taken from the dwarven capital create weapons and armor to supply slave soldiers that they have. I predict in the year 400, they may have, 400 in your time, I should say. They will likely have 20 million men in the south, and they will have almost 25 million men 40 years from now. I am so sorry for my confidence. It appears that one of my workers has misplaced some papers. And as this is a live recording, I must continue on as this. I meant to say that the Devils will have almost 20 million men on the southern front within 40 years. That is assuming they don't capture what is left of the human farmland, which may increase their number of troops in the south to 25 million in the next 40 years. I predict that we could see a potential increase of breeding ground and see upwards of 125,000 troops by the year 440 in your time and 340 in mine, if their advancements are not curtailed quickly. I would ask if you had some ships on the eastern coast to permit the leasing of those ships for a private venture my cousin wishes to partake in. I know this is a separate matter, but Quiron Wasanthi is a wealthy man, but has gotten bored of the constant fighting and wishes to retire. While I do not want to see my good friend retire and need him in the coming war, I do not force him to stay. He wants to create a small fleet and to retire in the islands just north of the human kingdom. My only concern is that the men under his command have a great temper and may, at times, in their boredom, raid and pillage the coast of the Devils. My friend will try to keep them in check, but they may get away with a ship or two and begin to raid like pirates. The Devils cannot get angry at you if these pirates are operating beyond your jurisdiction and raiding the coast of the human kingdom. These ships will likely accumulate many hostages that can be sold or made into workers on this island, and God forbid they resent their masters. Now, my friend may not intend this, and he'll do his best and his utmost to prevent this, but if those hostages were to take more of his ships and become pirates themselves, he may lose control of them, and he will need to lease more vessels from you. If you would be so kind and inform the dwarves that I wish to lease their island of Foldir from them, at the cost of 1,500 gold pieces up front, and 1,000 pounds of mithril every year for the next 50 years. The Elven fleet, numbering some 600 ships, will be moving north with the permission of the dwarves to establish a trade port on that island. I recommend that you install on the island of Kraknir, while smaller, a port authorized by the dwarves as well. These ports will act as excellent places to facilitate trade between us if the Devils decide that your ships carrying weapons of war, materials of war, becomes undiplomatic. In which case, under the protection of the Elven fleet, we may trade those goods. For I do not see the Devils liking that arrangement for very long. I beg you to listen to my advice. For all you are older than I have in no small part a great deal of wisdom in diplomacy. If there is any devil envoy that asks your opinion of me or the elves, please talk to me privately first. I wish to help a younger king, not in age or in wisdom, but in terms of reign, to avoid simple diplomatic mistakes that could harm his relationship with his family in the south. Take these gifts as my utmost sincere thankfulness. I give to you an orb that will allow us to communicate, if you wish to, much sooner and without inconveniencing my good friend. I give to you an elven bow of the finest of craftswork, crafted from nothing less than the greatest of materials. So much so, I shall explain them. The elven bow is crafted by the tremendous bowmaster Lofidil Villa, who made the bow out of living wood from the eldest tree of our forests. The strings that form the bow are made of the hairs of the golden steed of the second, a blessing passed down from heaven to my great-grandfather. I send to you 50 arrows of the highest quality. The arrowheads are made from pure mithril by the legendary smith Giziel Tenor, trained by the finest of dwarven smiths and the greatest of all the elves. The rods of the arrows are made of wood from the shafts of Uthmar's spear that was thought long lost, but now has been made and reforged into a new weapon fitting of your stature. The feathers of these bows and arrows are made from the great phoenix guardian of the elves, whom I ride, fletched by none other than Ilios Zalafar, the same Fletcher who fletched the arrows used by my great-great-great-grandfather to slay the last dragon lord of the south, Dolphinax, the blight of all. I leave you with my cousin Erwasanthi, who has served me well and will act as my ambassador there. If he is bothersome to your coffers, I will pay for his stay. At any time, if he becomes a nuisance to you, send him to me. But I do not think that will be necessary. Er is a loyal man and always polite. He will serve you well and only give you advice, and will question you only for the betterment of all. Thank you for listening. Sincerely, Theravan Wasanthi, King of the Elves.